Feel how cracks begin to show beneath the false sheen of perfect relationships. What once seemed like a solid bond turns out to be a fragile mirage, ready to shatter with a single misstep. Silent suspicions, sudden changes in habits, phone calls that were never meant to happen. When the truth surfaces, it doesn't just wound, it tears apart, leaving cold, ruthless realization where trust once stood. What happens when the person you loved with all your heart becomes your worst enemy? When the only way to regain control is to turn pain into a weapon and betrayal into fuel for your own freedom? What started as a quiet family life transforms into a brutal game of survival, where the stakes grow higher with every newly uncovered secret. Hello, my friend. I'm so glad you stopped by my channel. If it's your first time here, don't forget to subscribe and like this video, as every like truly inspires me. Please tell me which city and country you watched this video from. Now let's get started. There was a time when Laura gazed at me as if I held the entirety of her world, and those fleeting moments remain etched into my memory like scars. Her smile would gradually break through her usual seriousness, like sunlight struggling to pierce through dense clouds, delayed but undeniably genuine when it finally emerged. But if you asked me now what it meant, I'd claim it was all rehearsed, and I was too blinded by infatuation to notice the truth. 2 years into our marriage, the very foundation we had built began to disintegrate, the damage quiet and insidious, like mold spreading unseen through wood. We met later than most, well into our 30s, and our connection ignited swiftly, fueled by countless late nights spent working at the architecture firm. Laura carried herself with a captivating elegance, a beauty that whispered rather than shouted. She wore her confidence effortlessly, like a silk scarf tossed over her shoulder. She often painted vivid pictures of a peaceful future, a cozy house, children laughing in the yard, a dog, a garden. When we married, she abandoned her career to nurture that dream, embracing the role of homemaker with a devotion I mistakenly took for genuine contentment. The house was always immaculate. I'd come home to dinners I hadn't requested, the scent of lemon polish and clean wood filling the air, her voice humming softly from the kitchen. At first, it felt like perfection. Over time, though, the flawlessness grew unsettling, as if she was crafting an image she expected me to treasure forever. Still, I convinced myself that I was satisfied. I believed her when she said we were trying for a child. Month after month, she told me of failures, her sadness so palpable it stifled my questions. I never pressed her. The grief she displayed felt painfully authentic. But her anguish wasn't rooted in our childless marriage. It was entangled with the presence of another man, a man she had woven into her life in secret, starting on a night when I worked late, dragged to a colleague's dinner party by Marin. I sent her a text to say I'd be home late. Her reply was cheerful, urging me to enjoy myself and promising to reheat dinner when I returned. I felt fortunate then, believing I had married a woman so gracious. That illusion shattered moments later. As I walked home, crossing the stillness of Fifth Avenue, I saw her. Laura, laughing under the amber glow of streetlights, her fingers entwined with a man I didn't recognize. They were oblivious to my presence, concealed behind a bus shelter, my breath lodged painfully in my chest. The smile she wore, slightly crooked, achingly genuine, was no longer mine to cherish. I returned home feeling hollow, stumbling through the darkness as if drowning. Everything Laura had ever promised about loyalty, love, and building a life together felt empty now, a shattered bell tolling only dull, lifeless echoes. That night, I couldn't confront her. I lay awake beside her, the silence between us growing heavier with each passing minute. In the days that followed, the truth emerged slowly, each revelation like a knife slipped quietly between my ribs. I began noticing details I had once overlooked. Passwords changed without explanation. New lingerie hidden away where I'd never find it. an abrupt fascination with high-end skincare products she used to dismiss as overpriced scams. All of these subtle signs aligned into a truth I could no longer deny. One morning, while Lara showered, she left her phone unlocked. Without hesitation, my hands moved instinctively, driven by a need stronger than morality. The entire facade unraveled in an instant. Texts laced with intimacy, photographs capturing affection and desire. Lara in his arms, radiant with happiness, preserved in candid selfies and stolen moments. The worst discovery was their conversation about an upcoming weekend getaway, a lavish retreat meant to commemorate their first anniversary together. 1 year. They had been entwined for a full year. Sleep eluded me that night. I lay rigid beside her, retracing every memory, every embrace, to find the moment her love for me had expired. The next morning, she kissed me on the cheek, mentioning plans to visit her friend Talia on Wednesday. I nodded, pretending ignorance. She seemed livelier than she had in months, and now I understood why. I forced a smile and told her to have a wonderful time. Inside, I was already calculating my next move. The following day, I called in sick to work, fabricating a dental emergency. From the window, I watched as she left the house, suitcase in hand, her perfume lingering like a ghost. When her text arrived that afternoon, "Talia says hi, it's so good to catch up." I responded with a casual thumbs-up emoji, pretending to be swamped with work. By then, the private investigator I had hired was tracking her every step. At 7:42 p.m., the first photograph appeared in my inbox. Lara, lounging by a pool in a hotel robe, wine glass in hand, her lover seated beside her. Their kiss captured with unforgiving clarity. It was more than betrayal. It was complete devastation. The woman I once adored had become a stranger. The next morning, her message was lighthearted. "Hey, love. Hope you're eating okay. My card's not working. Can you transfer some money?" That's when I snapped. My response was blunt. "It's not working because I disabled it. Maybe your boyfriend can help you out." Her reply was immediate, feigning bewilderment. "What? I told you I'm at Talia's. Why would you say that?" The charade was over. I was done playing along. A dry, humorless laugh escaped my lips, the kind of sound that surfaces when pain hardens into something sharper. Resolve sharpened to a razor's edge. It was then I committed to crafting the most agonizing revenge imaginable. One designed to unravel her intricate fabrications, strand by strand, until she stood helpless among the ruins of her own deceit. Her messages kept appearing. Lara was coming apart faster than I had predicted. "Liam, what the hell is going on?" I stared at the phone's glaring screen. Liam, that was me. The man she had vowed loyalty to, promising a shared future. And now she was texting me from a hotel bed she shared with someone else, pleading for financial support to prop up her betrayal. I let her desperation fester. The private investigator, Noel, had delivered a goldmine: photos, receipts, even a discreetly captured video from a hotel restaurant. Lara, adorned in that crimson floral dress I'd gifted her for our anniversary, leaning over to offer a forkful of steak to her lover while he kissed her wrist. His name was Carter Dorian, a mid-tier executive from a tech company across town, married with 2 kids. He was 41, slender, polished, a living cliché of temptation wrapped in tailored suits, and he had no idea who he was crossing. I left Lara's messages unanswered for hours, letting the silence gnaw at her nerves. Near midnight, she called. I ignored it. She tried again. I declined the call once more. Then came the voicemail, her voice trembling. "Liam, I don't know what's going on. I never meant to lie. I didn't want you to worry. I'm not with Talia. I needed time to think. Please call me back. I love you." I played the message twice. By the second time, I was laughing. Love? Her brand of affection was the way a scavenger loves a dying creature. Ravenous, false. I replied with a text, stripped of any emotion. "I know exactly where you are. I've seen it all. Enjoy your final night." No response followed, so I began to prepare. Over the weekend, I moved out. For weeks, I'd been systematically relocating my essentials, documents, electronics, heirlooms, anything of value, into a storage unit rented under a fake name. The apartment we once shared reeked of betrayal, her perfume clinging to the air like decay. I left an envelope on the dining table. Inside, divorce papers, damning screenshots, and a letter. The note was simple. "I'm not the fool you thought I was. Liam." Then I walked away, calm and collected, free of grief. By Monday, she was back. I could sense the exact moment she entered that hollowed-out apartment and found the envelope. My phone began ringing almost immediately. I let it ring. Again and again, I allowed her desperation to swell. At 3:15 p.m., she left a voicemail, fury breaking through her strained attempt at innocence. "Liam, this is cruel. You just left. You didn't even give me a chance to explain. You're overreacting to nothing. Nothing." That word hit like an insult. I answered the next call. My voice was like iron. "You lied to me for over a year, shared my bed while indulging your desires elsewhere, and now you claim I'm overreacting?" She started crying, softly at first, then building, each sob a calculated plea. "I didn't mean for this to happen. You were so distant lately. I felt alone." Carter listened to me. And there it was, her attempt to twist the knife, to paint me as the villain. I smiled. "Distant? Lara, I worked myself to exhaustion to afford the luxuries you exploited to cheat on me." Silence. Then a desperate whisper. "So, this is it." I said nothing. "Liam, please," she begged. "Let's meet. Just talk to me face to face, please." "You don't deserve a conversation," I replied, my voice cold. "You deserve consequences." And I hung up. Next, it was Carter's turn. He wouldn't walk away unscathed. No. The life he built on the ashes of my trust would burn. 3 days later, I found his wife, Camille Dorian. I dressed simply, clean, presentable. I approached her during her lunch break, outside her yoga studio, waiting patiently until she emerged, sipping a bright green juice. I spoke softly. "Hello," I said gently. "Are you Camille Dorian?" Her expression stiffened, suspicion flickering in her eyes. "Yes, I'm Liam Hayes, Lara's husband." Her face lost its color. 10 minutes later, we were seated on a park bench beneath the shade of a sprawling oak. I didn't raise my voice or throw accusations. Instead, I handed her a sealed envelope. Everything was inside. She flipped through the evidence, photos, text messages, hotel reservations. The final page bore a note I'd written in bold letters. "He's been cheating on you with my wife for over a year." Camille didn't cry. Her voice fell to a strained whisper. "I thought it was just me, that I was losing my mind." I nodded, slowly. "You weren't there when it happened." And then I rose from the ashes. "I'm sorry. I know this hurts, but you deserve honesty." She clung to the folder like it was her last grip on reality, and I turned away. I didn't look back. 2 days later, Lara found her way to my new place. How she tracked me down, I couldn't be sure. Maybe she dug through old receipts or accessed a shared account we used ages ago. I opened the door with caution. She looked awful. Deep shadows etched under her eyes, hair pulled back haphazardly, her face bare of makeup. She wore one of my old sweatshirts like it was some kind of shield. "Please," she whispered, "don't shut me out." I stayed silent. She stepped over the threshold uninvited, eyes glistening with unshed tears. Carter's wife found out. She left him and took their kids. Now he's blaming me for everything. He says I destroyed his life. I leaned against the wall, arms folded across my chest. "You did destroy someone's life. Mine." Her eyes met mine then, panic flickering behind them. "Liam, I never intended for this to happen." I said nothing. He told me he loved me. Promised he'd be with me if his wife ever left. Now he's ignoring every message I send. I sacrificed everything for him. I tilted my head slightly. No, you sacrificed me, and now you're dealing with the aftermath. She moved closer, trying to take my hand. I pulled away. Don't, I said. Don't pretend you care now. You can't just erase 2 years, she sobbed. You were the one who threw them away first. And then I dealt the final blow. From the table, I picked up the manila envelope and handed it to her. What's this? Open it. Inside was a letter, a copy of the legal complaint I'd filed for intentional infliction of emotional distress, along with a formal statement from her friend at university, Talia, the one she'd claimed to be with. The letter read, "To whom it may concern, I did not see Lara Hayes at any time between March. Any claims otherwise are untrue." She let the paper fall from her hands as if it burned. "Yeah," I whispered. "You brought this all on yourself." "No, Lara. You did." Lara stood there paralyzed, her lips parted like she couldn't catch her breath. The envelope trembled in her grasp. She hadn't seen this coming. She expected rage, shouting, maybe even a breakdown. But I gave her something else. No, I gave her consequences. This is cruel," she finally choked out. "Cruel." I echoed, my tone flat. "Cruel is watching your wife lie to your face while she meets another man in hotel elevators. Cruel is wondering if the nights she came home smelling of cologne and wine were from a friendly gathering or someone else's arms. Cruel is pretending the signs aren't there because the truth is too devastating to face." Her shoulders slumped as she stared at the ground. "But now," I continued, my voice steady, "now I know. And now you get to feel what it's like to be the one left uncertain and alone." She tried again. "I made a mistake, Liam. I panicked. You were always working and I cut her off, my words cold and sharp. "Don't you dare justify it. This wasn't a mistake. It was a choice. You built a life on betrayal. You lied for over a year. You made me believe we were building something real while you planned weekends away with him." Her tears spilled over, but I was past feeling sympathy. Her sorrow was just another currency spent elsewhere. "Leave," I said. "We're done." But she stayed rooted to the spot. Instead, she sank onto the edge of the couch as if hoping to reclaim some fragment of the past. "I've lost everything. My friends, my reputation, everyone knows. Camille posted everything online. My inbox is flooded with messages calling me a liar and a homewrecker." I kept silent. I wouldn't console her. I wasn't her partner anymore. I was her reckoning. Her sobs grew louder. "I can't go back to work, Liam. They saw everything. My former boss emailed me saying not to bother reapplying. It's bad for the firm's reputation." "That's not my concern," I replied. "I was stupid," she shouted. "I thought I was falling for something exciting, but it was all shallow, empty. It wasn't real. You were real. You always were." I leaned forward, my voice dropping to a whisper. "That's funny. I used to think the same thing about you." Her expression shattered, and I watched her unravel. But I wasn't finished. The next day, I met with my lawyer, Maris Prasad, a brilliant woman with a talent for precision and strategy. She'd handled brutal divorces before, but when I laid out the evidence, texts, photos, timelines, even proof Lara had used my money to fund those so-called getaways, she smiled. "This is airtight," she said. "You'll walk away clean." "I want her left with nothing," I replied. Maris didn't flinch. "Then that's exactly what we'll achieve." Lara filed a petition to freeze our shared financial accounts. In response, we compiled evidence illustrating her reckless approach to managing money. Nearly all of our assets, the condo, my stocks, my car, were legally under my name, leaving her with no leverage. Lara, once so polished and composed, now floundered to survive within the ruins of her own making. But my actions were far from over. A week later, I paid her parents a visit. Yes, her parents. They had always spoken well of me. On more than one occasion, they'd said I was the best thing that ever happened to Laura. I waited until her father, Dominic, was alone on the porch before approaching him. His expression shifted to surprise. "Liam, I won't keep you long," I began. "But you deserve to know the truth before she twists the narrative." I handed him a folder. He flipped through the papers, his face growing graver with each page. When he finally stopped, he remained silent, rubbing his temples before muttering, "Damn. She'll claim I abandoned her without reason," I continued. "That I walked away, but it wasn't me who gave up. It was her." "I believe you," he said softly. "I warned her before. Never mistake kindness for weakness. You didn't deserve any of this." This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about truth, ensuring that wherever she turned, the light was already shining, leaving no shadows for her to hide in. No pity. Only facts. That weekend, I disposed of the last of her belongings. And then, something unexpected occurred. I cried. Not from missing her, but for the person I once was. The man who believed love could mend anything. The man who left flowers on her desk just because, and scribbled notes of affection during meetings because he missed her. That version of me died the night I saw her with Carter outside that hotel. I cried for him, then let him go. 2 days later, Laura called from a blocked number. I answered, more out of curiosity than anything else. Her voice sounded hollow, stripped of all emotion except bitterness. "You think you've won?" I smiled, slow and deliberate. "This was never a game, Laura. But if it was, yes, I've already won. You destroyed my life." "No, Laura. You did that to yourself. I just made sure everyone saw the truth." She fell silent. "Then I'll fight this." "I hope you do," I replied. "I have lawyers who thrive on conflict, especially when the other side only has a story that no one believes." I ended the call. Later that evening, a message from an unknown number arrived. It was from Carter. One line, "You had no right." My response was immediate. I had every right. I attached a photo, him kissing Laura at the hotel spa, dated and time-stamped. Unquestionable evidence. He never replied. I never heard from him again, but his silence spoke volumes. I had struck just as deeply as he had. Nearly 2 months had passed since I left Laura, but the echoes of her betrayal still lingered in quiet moments. Sometimes, while drinking my morning coffee, her laughter would haunt the back of my mind until I remembered it was all a deception. Every memory we shared now felt tainted. Yet, I could breathe again. Peace crept back into my life like a stray dog, cautious but persistent. I began jogging each morning, attended weekly therapy sessions, and even reconnected with my brother, someone I had neglected for nearly a year while consumed by my devotion to Laura. She continued trying to reach me. I ignored the calls. Then came the emails. Desperate, remorseful, angry, then remorseful again. It was the same predictable cycle of guilt and manipulation, but I was no longer susceptible. And then there was one message that nearly made me laugh. "Liam, I've lost everything. My parents won't speak to me. Carter is gone. I have no idea where he is. I'm jobless, friendless. I just want a fresh start. I know I made mistakes, but can we meet? Just one honest conversation. Closure, if nothing else." Closure. She wanted closure from the man she had tried to bury alive. I started typing a response. "You don't want closure, Laura. You want forgiveness, but I'm not your savior. I'm the grave you dug for your past." I never sent it. There was no point. Some ghosts are meant to linger. That week, Maris, my lawyer, called. "She's contesting the divorce," Maris stated bluntly. "She has no grounds," I replied. "We both know that. She knows it too, but she's delaying. She's requesting mediation." My jaw clenched. Let her waste her energy. I have all the proof I need. The mediation was scheduled for the following week at a downtown office. I arrived early, calm and prepared. Laura arrived late, disheveled, her former elegance replaced by frantic excuses and smudged mascara. She couldn't even meet my eyes. Maris began, presenting our case with precision. Documented infidelity, financial recklessness, emotional manipulation. Each piece of evidence landed like a calculated blow. The truth was now exposed, undeniable, and stark. Lara tried to argue, her voice choked by years of emotional erosion. But the mediator, a woman with eyes like sharpened iron, remained unmoved. Miss Hayes, your actions demonstrated repeated betrayal. That is not neglect. It's cruelty. For once, Lara had no retort. By the time the proceedings concluded, the verdict was unmistakable. No spousal support, no division of property. She left with only her clothing, a few sentimental keepsakes, and the fractured remnants of a life she had systematically dismantled. I walked away, unburdened. 2 weeks later, a letter came from Camille Dorian, Carter's wife. Her handwriting was precise, each word crafted with intention. Liam, you did more than rescue me. You granted me clarity. I could have spent years trapped under misplaced guilt, endlessly trying to rebuild something unsalvageable. But you gave me truth. That's more than most people ever receive. I've filed for divorce and taken the kids. I've started my own business. Just wanted you to know, you're not the only one who emerged stronger. With appreciation, Camille. I held her letter as if it were something fragile and precious. This was justice, not through court rulings or public scorn. It was liberation. 3 months passed. I carved out a modest, peaceful life, found solace in a humble apartment, and made a few new friends. Romance wasn't a priority. I wasn't ready. But I was relearning how to appreciate solitude. I'd begun teaching an evening course, Foundations of Architectural Theory. My students were eager and determined, their enthusiasm pulling me back to the joy of creating something meaningful. One evening after class, I wandered into a cozy Italian cafe I'd never noticed before. A woman behind the counter handed me a cappuccino, her smile warm and genuine. "Tough day?" she asked. I laughed lightly. Something like that. Care to talk about it? Her eyes held no judgment, only curiosity. "Maybe someday," I replied. Her name was Emma. She knew nothing of my history, and that somehow felt like possibility. Meanwhile, Lara's public persona was crumbling. An old acquaintance, a mutual friend from long ago, reached out. "Have you seen her social media?" I hadn't. I had unfollowed her months earlier, but curiosity prodded at me. Her curated image had deteriorated into a collage of melancholy. Pictures of half-finished wine glasses, empty platitudes about endurance, a lone selfie captioned, "Some people enter your life only to inflict pain." The comments were a cascade of sympathy from strangers, met with silence from those who knew the truth. She was isolated, truly, utterly, and deservedly alone. But I felt nothing. Not anger, not triumph, just a calm, indifferent emptiness. And that emptiness held more power than rage ever could. It was the real closure. One night, her final email arrived. Subject, "You win, I'm leaving. I need to start over. You were always right. I just never wanted to accept it. Maybe one day you'll forgive me, though I don't expect it. You owe me nothing. I hope you found happiness now. Lara." I didn't respond. The anger had long since faded, and revenge had become irrelevant. Not through her downfall, but through rebuilding myself. Lara's betrayal wasn't just an act of unfaithfulness. It was a gradual dismantling of my identity, worn away piece by piece. But destruction carries a strange mercy. It clears the ground for something stronger to grow. In the end, I found more than justice. I found freedom. And freedom is the truest revenge, silent, serene. The kind of stillness that declares, "You never destroyed me. This story has come to an end." What's your opinion? Share it in the comments, my friend. And if you like this story, check out other exciting videos on my channel. I'll say goodbye until the next video. See you.